I am a nutritionist and I specialize in working with people who have disabilities, particularly people with neurological conditions, brain injuries, spinal cord injuries. And I do a lot of presentations to different disability groups across North America. Just to give you a little more background on myself, I sustained a spinal cord injury 32 years ago. And following my injury, I had a lot of secondary health complications. Things like fatigue, pressure sores, gastrointestinal issues, bladder infections, a lot of migraine headaches, and a lot of weight gain. And I never made the connection that a lot of maybe the issues that I was having had to do with the foods that I was actually eating. And so I was on a lot of medications. I kept getting prescriptions to address all these secondary health complications that I was having, but then that led to other secondary conditions and other prescriptions, and it became a really bad vicious cycle. And so I basically thought there has to be a better way to do this. And so I just wiped the slate clean, got rid of all my medications. I don't recommend doing that. Talk to your health professional first, but for me, that's what worked. And I completely changed my diet and it changed my life. So I lost weight. Bladder infections went away, my pain went away, the tendinitis, neuropathic pain decreased by about 90%. So all sorts of really, really great things started to happen, lots of good benefits. And I thought, if I was experiencing these benefits, so could others. So I literally quit the job, the career I was having, and I went back to school to become a nutritionist and focus in this area to help people with disabilities from dealing with what I dealt with for about 10 years. So, and then when I was in school, I met another nutritionist who was also interested in working with this population, people with disabilities. And what we did is we came together to write a book. And, what's going on here? And hold on. We wrote a book, and it was the first book ever written of its kind for people with spinal cord injuries and other neurological conditions. And this was written about 7 or 8 years ago. There's 16 chapters. Each chapter has a different secondary health complication that you're addressing. And each chapter is divided into 3 sections. And I just want to show you what we've done here. Just for example, bladder health. Each chapter focuses on a condition, explains why that condition happens, say after injury, if you have a mobility impairment or another neurological condition. So I go through the different nutrients that can address those conditions. And then we have another second section in each chapter that has all different recipes that address that certain condition. And then the last section is a nutrient chart that talks about different vitamins, minerals, supplements that can actually help address that condition as well. So our hope in writing this book, nutrition book, was to help empower people to live more independently and avoid these secondary health complications, because often it's the secondary health complications that can impede independence and living fully in our communities, not the actual disability itself. So that's a little more background on myself. Before we get started, and as Dan just said, little medical disclaimer here. The information that I am providing today on nutrition and weight loss is subject to change based on individual needs. So this is a general guideline for you to take into consideration. Always speak to your healthcare practitioner first before taking any supplements, because there can be interactions between some supplements and some medications you may be on. For example, fish oils, which I'm going to recommend today, are natural blood thinners. So if you're on a blood thinning medication, you always want to talk to your healthcare provider or doctor first before taking them together. Okay, so let's get started here. What is nutrition? Basically, it is using foods to nourish the body with the essential elements it needs to live, to grow, and to heal. That is it in a nutshell. Very simple. So today we are talking about disability and weight gain. And that is, like I was saying, one of the biggest issues, one of the top 2 issues that I deal with. It is one of the most common secondary health complications that people with mobility, disability issues face. Okay. Factors contributing to weight gain for people with mobility impairments, physical disabilities. There's many in here, some of the big ones here. Reduced physical activity. If you have a mobility impairment of any kind, you're just not outputting the same energy. So you're not burning the same kinds of fats and calories. Often for people, if you've sustained an injury, there's a change in economic status. So that might impair your ability to buy healthier foods. People with disabilities, studies show, also tend to have poor diets and experience malnutrition. Also, because of reduced mobility, ability with a disability, some people have difficulty going out to buy healthy foods. Getting to the grocery store in and of itself might be difficult. There might be a reduced ability or reduced dexterity to prepare, chop, cook healthy foods. Often people are on medications, and medications, particularly pain medications, can actually, one of the side effects, cause weight gain. And that's something I deal with a lot of my clients. Stress is another contributing factor to weight gain. And this might sound unusual, but the reason for that is when you have stress, and that's mental stress, emotional stress, or physical stress. And when I talk about physical stress, I'm talking about pain, your cortisol levels go up. Cortisol is the stress hormone. Stress hormones like cortisol actually instruct your body to keep more weight, hang on to the calories that you eat. And studies show that people with disabilities live with higher levels of stress than our able-bodied counterparts. So that's how stress can contribute to weight gain. Inflammation is another contributing factor. And when I talk about inflammation, I'm talking about microscopic tissue inflammation in your cells and your body that can just impair the weight loss process. And again, inflammation happens from medication consumption or just from the stress, from cortisol I was just talking about. And often people with disabilities, because we're stressed, we tend to comfort eat. So sweets and treats and cakes and cookies and things, because they make us feel better. So these are just some of the reasons why people with disabilities tend to have weight gain issues. Now, the problem with that is excess weight contributes to other issues, and here's just a few. It can increase stress on your nerves and joints and cause pain. It can cause decreased circulation. It can increase inflammation and pain. Literally, when you have more fat cells in your body, it actually contributes to more inflammation, which, as I was just saying, impedes the weight loss process. It can contribute to fatigue. Literally carrying around excess weight, puts more weight on your organs, contributes to fatigue, low energy. It can contribute to cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, insulin resistance, poor sleep, which poor sleep then contributes to weight gain. Again, vicious cycle. It can contribute to poor self-esteem and depression, high blood pressure, fatty liver. This is very, very common. Fatty liver, hormone imbalances, difficulty breathing, increased risk of blood clotting, reduced life expectancy, reduced immune function, which is really important right now to consider with COVID, increased stress on your kidneys, and again, increased risk of pressure sores. So these are just some of the issues that weight gain can contribute to, why you really want to maintain a healthy weight. So what do you want to do? You want to look at what your caloric intake should be. And when you have a mobility impairment, our caloric intake is less than our able-bodied counterparts. So how can you calculate how many calories a day you should be eating? There's something called basal metabolic rate. Okay, this is the pace at which your body burns calories for fuel just to go about your daily business, to get up, to do, to go to work, to make your breakfast and your lunch. There's a basic amount of calories you need, okay? And you can go online easily, punch in basal metabolic rate, and you're gonna punch in your weight, your height, and your age, and it's going to give you your basic metabolic rate, the calories that you should be consuming every single day. Then you wanna reduce that by 500 calories if you want to lose weight. So the formula for able-bodied people is reduce your calories by 300 to 500 calories a day if you want to lose weight. But again, because people with mobility impairments, disabilities tend to have less activity levels, just reduce it by 500 calories. That will give you a really good guideline of how many calories a day you should be eating, okay? And you can track your calories through various apps like FitnessPal, things like that. But you got to remember too, not all calories are equal. So if it says that you should be eating 1,200 calories a day, it doesn't mean 1,200 calories of cakes, cookies, pop, things like that. They need to be healthy ones. And I'm going to go through what some of the healthy ones are that you should be eating. All right. So some people find counting calories very difficult. I do. And when I work with clients, I like to give them that number so they have an idea in their head of how many calories they should be eating. But most people find it easier to track what they're eating every day by serving sizes. And here's a chart that you can follow. Okay, so you do your basic metabolic rate, you get the calculation, but this is just easier to follow day to day. Okay, so it's broken up into different calories of what you should be eating a day. So for example, protein, you should be having 3 servings of protein a day. What's a serving of protein? It's the size of your palm of your hand without your thumb and without your fingers. So the palm of your hand, that is a serving of protein. You want to have 3 servings of those a day. Okay, so one of those for breakfast, one of those for lunch, one for dinner. So that could be a piece of fish, a piece of chicken, 2 eggs. If you're looking at something like what's a serving of bread, 1 serving a day. And that's what this chart here will show you and tell you. Okay, it's a quick reference guide. All right. Now, giving you an idea of how I can calculate how much you should be eating a day, let's go through my specific recommendations now to help you lose weight or maintain a healthy weight. First thing when you want to lose weight is you want to reduce your grains. Grains are things like bread, pasta, rice. When you eat any of these foods and they're digested, they basically turn to sugar, something called glucose, okay? So glucose is what our body will store as fat if we eat too much glucose. So what I recommend for weight loss is 1 serving of grain a day. So that is like 1 slice of whole grain bread or a ½ cup of brown rice or a ½ cup of whole grain pasta. What I mean by whole grain is foods that still have their fiber in them. They're whole grains. So when you have things like white pasta, white bread, white rice, the fiber has been removed, which is why they're white. So you want to go for the whole grains because that fiber slows the release of that glucose into your bloodstream. So it's less likely then to be stored as fat. Because if you have too many grains, say you have a couple pieces of white bread, it turns into sugar once it's digested. It gets into your bloodstream. It jacks up your blood sugar levels. It jacks up what's called your insulin levels. And what goes up must come down. And then you get this up and down all day of blood sugars, cortisol, and that contributes to weight gain. So you want to have really nice, even blood sugar levels by keeping your blood sugar consumption, your glucose consumption down. So here you go. You want to eat things like whole grain pasta, things like spelt or kamut pasta, a ½ cup, or 1 slice of whole grain bread, or a ½ cup of rice. So just keep track. If you have 1 slice of whole grain, say toast in the morning with some almond butter, that's it. That's your serving of grain for the day. Avoid all the white stuff. Avoid your white pasta, your white bread, your white rice. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, if I'm recommending you remove your grains from your diet, you're really cutting them down. Don't worry, you're not going to starve. You're going to replace them with lentils and legumes. So things like chickpeas, black beans, whatever your favorite legumes and lentils are, you want to have about 2 servings a day. Go back to the chart, what I just showed you, what 2 servings equals, because legumes and lentils, they do have glucose in them. They do have some carbohydrates in them, but they also have protein and lots of fiber to slow that release of the blood sugar, okay? So eat, again, chickpeas or hummus if you love hummus, the black beans, you can have black bean dip, lots of lentil soups, okay? About 2 servings a day of those. The next thing you want to do is have protein for breakfast every single day. Why? It goes back to balancing those blood sugars and balancing those insulin levels. Studies show that people who eat, say, toast or bagels or cereal in the morning jack up the blood sugars, jack up their insulin levels really, really quickly. And again, what goes up must come down. So you might have that at 8 o'clock in the morning, give you a quick energy hit, but by 10, 11 o'clock, your blood sugars are crashing and your body's craving more sugar to get the blood sugars back up. But if you have protein for breakfast, studies show that it helps balance your blood sugars throughout the entire day and your insulin levels throughout the entire day. So when I say have protein for breakfast, it's things like protein smoothies or eggs or plain Greek yogurt, okay? So mix those 3 ideas up for some protein breakfast and really avoid having toast, bagels, muffins, especially the processed muffins are loaded with sugar, processed oatmeals, things like that. Okay, that's a really great way to help you lose weight. This is the big trick for me. When I started doing this, my weight just slid right off me. When I started having protein smoothies for breakfast every day, it was quite remarkable. I was shocked how much the weight just slid off. Okay, this one, reduce your fruit intake. I'm not saying don't eat fruit, reduce it. So fruit has natural fruit sugars, and it's not that they're unhealthy, but if you have too much of them, again, you're just adding too much sugar into your system. So you want to have one serving of low sugar fruit a day. So one serving is like one pear or one apple or 1 cup of berries. So you just want to have the low sugar fruits, which I've listed there. Avocados, nectarines are also low sugar. Avoid the high sugar ones, things like bananas, pineapple, papaya, mango, grapes, and dried fruit. Not that these are bad, they have lots of good vitamins, but they have way too much sugar if you're trying to lose weight, particularly bananas. They can skyrocket your blood sugar levels, okay? So 1 serving of fruit a day. Number 5, increase your vegetables. Vegetables loaded with vitamins and minerals, but they're also loaded with fiber, which fills you up faster. Again, helps stabilize the blood sugars throughout the day. And they're low in calories. So 5 servings a day, that's like 5 handfuls of vegetables a day, which isn't a lot. Really, it sounds like a lot, but think about 3 handfuls of some spinach or your favorite leafy green for lunch with a piece of chicken. And for dinner, have a couple cups of broccoli or cauliflower, whatever your favorite other vegetables are. You really want to avoid white potatoes, French fries, if you're trying to lose weight. Again, white potatoes have very little fiber. You eat them, they skyrocket those blood sugars. So you can have sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes, even though they sound sweet and lots of sugar, they have lots of fiber to slow the release of that sugar into your bloodstream, okay? So at least 5 servings or more of vegetables a day. The next thing you want to do is increase your healthy fats. Good fats help burn bad fats, and you get good healthy fats like omega-3, omega-6, healthy fats from things like fish, almonds, walnuts. So you want to try having fish 3 or 4 times a week. What fats do is they fill you up faster as well. So you get that sense of satisfaction quicker when you have healthy fats in your food. Also makes our food taste great, which is why we love them so much. So you just want to make sure you're having the good kinds like salmon, tuna, halibut, walnuts, hemp seeds, olive oil, avocados, lots of great fats in there for you. You want to avoid trans fats. These are the bad fats. Trans fats are man-made fats. They were made to extend our foods on our shelves in the grocery store or in our homes. They are not meant to extend our lives and our health. Basically, it's found in fast foods, packaged foods, fried foods. You want to avoid those. They cause inflammation and they actually decrease the healthy fats in our system. Okay, so avoid those altogether. Get fish in your system, in your diet 3 to 4 times a week. The other thing you can do is help boost your metabolism by eating what's called thermogenic foods. Thermogenic foods basically mean that the amount of energy it takes for you to chew, swallow, digest these foods is more than the calories the food contains. So by eating things like celery, for example, the time your body breaks that down, it's burned off the calories that are within it. And these are also, they tend to be loaded with fiber, these foods, they fill you up. So it's a really great way to just lose weight by snacking on things like celery, eating lots of Brussels sprouts and broccoli. Green tea is another great way. Sip on that throughout the day, help boost your metabolism. And the next thing is eliminate refined sugar. The first 7 things are about what you should be introducing into your diet, but sometimes taking out of your diet is equally as important as what you're putting in. Refined sugar is one of the worst culprits for weight gain. So, and people tend to eat way too much. People on average are eating 2 to 3 times the amount of sugar they should be consuming a day. The World Health Organization recommends that we have about 24 grams of sugar a day, which is 6 teaspoons. That's it. 6 for women, about 9 for men. The average can of, say, Coke or Mountain Dew or whatever your favorite pop may be, contains the equivalent of 10 teaspoons of sugar a day. So in one can, you're getting more than your daily recommendation. And some people are drinking pop all day long or adding teaspoons of sugar to their coffee or their tea. The other thing about sugar is it has so many detrimental effects on our body, like, contributing to inflammation. It can actually really disrupt your sleep, contributes to fatigue and hormone balances, insulin resistance. So really eliminate pop, candy, cookies, donuts, anything loaded with sugar, and read your ingredient list. If you see sugar in the top 3 ingredients, there's way too much in there. Do not consume that food. This is a really big one. And people have a hard time getting rid of sugar because it is so addictive in our brains. It takes about 3 or 4 weeks to get over that sugar addiction, but you can do it. You can do it. Okay, and this is just a little graph here. When I was talking earlier about those blood sugar spikes, this is just a little chart you can refer to about why it's so important to eliminate sugar. Our bodies can really only sustain in our blood system, our circulatory system, 5 to 6 teaspoons of sugar. That's why I say that's all you want to have at any given moment in your blood sugars. When it goes up and down, you're getting the cortisol, it's stress in your body. So you're getting blood sugar going up and down, or cortisol going up and down. You're getting insulin going up and down. It wreaks havoc on your entire body. That bottom chart there is where you want to keep your blood sugars nice and stable throughout the day by having lots of those high fiber foods, the legumes, the lentils, and your vegetables. Okay, so I hope this graph kind of shows you what happens in your arteries when you have too much sugar. This is also just a sugar glycemic index, so you can see just how high sugar is in your system. Glycemic index is the sugar in your blood. So sugar goes under many different names. It's very tricky when you're reading your ingredient list to see if sugar's in there. So I wanted to give you this so you can see other names for sugar, and you can see their glycemic index to see how high it is once it's in your system. Okay, so things like maltose, dextrose, high sugar content there. Whereas you see the very end there, stevia has 0. Stevia is a plant. It has 200 times the sweetness of sugar, but doesn't raise your blood sugars. And what they do is they take the leaves of the stevia plant and they crush it into a powder or into a liquid form. And you can just add that as a liquid or powder form to your foods. So you're getting the sweetness on your tongue and the satisfaction of that sweetness, but it's not raising your blood sugars and contributing to all of those health issues that I was talking about, including weight gain. Okay, so you really want to avoid these sugars in your bloodstream. Things like honey at 30, the rating of 30, that's okay. Sorbitol, mannitol, you can try those. Stevia is what I really recommend though, okay? Or honey, you can try that too, just because it's natural. I've talked about foods to eat and not eat and how much. Now I want to mention 2 supplements to help you lose weight. And again, always talk to your healthcare provider first before introducing these. The first is something called chromium. Chromium is a micromineral that helps get your glucose in your blood into your cells to be burned as a fuel instead of being stored as fat. So it's all natural, it's in our soil, and what happens when our fruits and vegetables grow, chromium is absorbed into them, and then we eat these fruits and vegetables, we get chromium in our systems to help balance our blood sugars. But with modern day agriculture and monocropping, a lot of our soils now are depleted of this natural micromineral called chromium. So chromium can actually come in a supplement. And what I recommend for people who are trying to lose weight is 400 to 1,000 micrograms a day. And you want to spread it throughout the day. So if you had, for example, 1,000, you had 500 mcg pills, you take 1 in the morning with breakfast, 1 in the evening with dinner, and that will help balance your blood sugars, okay? If you have, though, diabetes and you're on any kind of diabetic medication, you do not want to take chromium. This is why it's so important to consult with your healthcare provider first. Okay, and the second thing is in terms of a supplement I recommend if you're trying to lose weight is a fat, healthy fat And the particular one I recommend for you is called CLA. There are different kinds of healthy fats that do different things in your body. There's DHA, which is great for nerve function, brain function, EPA, which is great for as an anti-inflammatory, and it's great for your heart. CLA is particularly good in studies for helping reduce fat in the trunk region. In order to get this benefit from CLA, you need about 3,000 to 4,000 milligrams a day, again, spread throughout the day. Each pill of CLA is 1,000 milligrams. So again, you'd want to take maybe one for lunch, one for dinner, and one for breakfast. That's how you would spread it out. And you can get this at a health food store or online, Amazon, CLA. Just punch it in, you'll find that. But again, if you are on any kind of blood thinning medication, always check with your healthcare provider first, because healthy fat supplements do have natural blood thinning properties in them. Okay, so those are my top recommendations to help you lose weight if you have a disability in a safe way. And ideally, you want to be losing maybe half a pound to a pound a week. That's it, people. You do not want to be losing crazy amounts of weight, because when you lose it fast, you tend to gain it back on. You want to actually change your eating patterns as a lifestyle change, not as a short-term diet. Okay. Just to give you a client case from a fellow that I was working with, he applied all of these recommendations that I just went through with you, and I'll just walk you through what happened with him. Prior to me starting a nutrition program with him, he was a 50-year-old C567 incomplete quadriplegic. He was 3 years post-injury, and over those 3 years after he had his spinal cord injury, he gained 40 pounds. And because of the excess weight, he actually developed a very serious pressure sore on his coccyx, on his tailbone. So he came to me for weight loss, and we did the program that I just talked about. And in over 20 weeks, just over 20 weeks, he lost 40 pounds, which was incredible. Now, this fellow was a workout fiend. He was working out 2 hours a day on an arm bike, but he was doing that prior to starting the nutrition program, and he wasn't losing the weight. So doing 2-hour workouts plus in conjunction with the weight loss program, he lost 40 pounds in 20 weeks. But what other things happen, the other benefits, is it increased his energy levels throughout the day, which is great. And it also just increased his self-esteem, how he was feeling. So that was wonderful to have that benefit. So there you go. I hope that answers some of your questions about how to lose weight with a disability, my recommendations. I'll open it up now to any questions any of you may have about that.
Joanne, I just have a quick question. Sorry, I missed the amount of chromium that we should be taking. I wrote down like the CLA, but how much chromium was it?
400 to 1,000.
Okay.
So because I know you, Sherry, and I know the amount you work out, and we've talked a lot about food and intake, for you, I would recommend 500 mcgs in the morning, 500 mcgs at dinner time.
Okay. Thank
and again, you can get these at a health food store or online right now, delivery, Amazon.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Where can I buy your book?
Well, you can buy the PDF now. The actual hard copy book, unfortunately, is sold out. But there's a website called Eat Well, Live Well with SCI.com, and you can get the PDF on there.
Okay. Eat Well, Live Well.
With SCI.com.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Live well.
So, Joanne, I'm just going to remove.
SCI.com. Sorry.
Yes. Eat Well.
Thank you.
SCI. Yeah.
So I'll give everyone another second if you want to take down Joanne's email.
Oh, I just took it off.
There you go. That's okay. So yeah, thank you so much. I mean, that was really incredible. I have to say, when you talked about the basal, oh my God, I forget already. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I went and sneaked and I did it myself to see, you know, what my caloric intake is, and I think the mine is 500 calories is a good rule of thumb for sure.
Yeah.
And I you know, I struggle with weight loss because I have a very sedentary lifestyle, quadriplegic. I don't exercise, you know, whatever. So for sure, like I've always sort of used caloric intake as my measure, and that index certainly is helpful to give a starting point. I do have a question here from the chat. It says, what is your take on the keto diet?
It's very individual, and it's funny, for some people I've worked with, it does incredible things very quickly. And I've actually had 2 clients who gained weight doing it. Everybody's system is unique. Everybody responds to different, food strategies in different ways. And until I start working with people, I don't know how they're going to respond. I think the ketogenic, my experience and my personal experience and my experience with clients in the ketogenic diet is it's good in the short term. I don't think it is an eating plan that can be sustained long term. I see people struggle trying to maintain it long term. If you want to lose weight quickly, it's a pretty good meal plan. But again, for the people that I work with, I like to have people have more of a lifestyle plan with their eating, something that's going to sustain them in the long run, right? So lose weight quickly, people tend to put it back on quickly. And it's a difficult diet. I did it because I want to experiment with everything I recommend for people. And I had a pretty negative reaction, I have to say. In the first week, your body's adjusting to the fuel you're burning. You're burning fat instead of glucose as a fuel source. And in that transition, I went through a horrible keto kind of crash in the first week where I felt awful. I was on the couch for 2 days. I thought I was getting the flu. I felt so terrible, so fatigued. And then I realized by the second day, it's the ketogenic diet that was doing it to me. I got over the hump and I kept doing it for a couple of weeks, but I didn't enjoy it. It just wasn't for me. So yeah, it's all individual. So it's up to the individual who's trying it. But I think for people with disabilities, when you've got other secondary health conditions, most of us do, you want to have more of a balanced diet. It's just changing the ratios of what I just went through. So you're still having some healthy carbohydrates, like whole grain versions of carbohydrates, but you're just reducing them, right? So you're getting healthy fats, you're getting healthy carbs, and you're getting adequate protein intake, breakfast, lunch, dinner. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it does, and it's funny because over the years I've had friends without physical disabilities who have tried various diets, keto and everything else. And for me, I've always sort of avoided it for exactly the reasons that you said. It's, it can be fairly traumatic on your body. And if you don't have, like in my case, I have reduced, muscle capacity and everything else. So it's not the kind of thing that I would want to experiment on for myself. I think that the approach of having sort of a balanced diet with maybe reduced caloric intake is a bit more sustaining. Like you said, more sustaining long term, right? Diets. I think diets across the board have all been universally the same. They're great when you go at it for a short time, but often, both chemically and psychologically, you break, and then you just want to go back to the way you were, and it sort of defeats the purpose. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's changing your eating habits. It's a lifestyle change, and I don't do it overnight. It took me years to really fine tune my own diet, what that worked for me. I don't expect anybody I work with or I present to change it overnight. It is a lifestyle change. It takes a while to integrate. So give yourself a break. Start by changing your breakfast to just your protein breakfast. Do that for a couple of weeks, then go on to your snacks, then go on to your lunches and your dinners, and experiment with different foods that you like and don't like, right? So just give yourself a break and go slowly with it. And gives your body a time to adjust to different portion sizes, different foods, nutrient levels. Yeah, so that to me is the best way to try and make it a lifestyle change as opposed to a short-term diet.
We have a question here. It says, what is your take on weight loss pills?
There really aren't a lot of real weight loss pills. So the Chromium that I talked about there, with a lot of herbal magic, different magic or weight loss programs out there, the magic that we're talking about is Chromium, micro mineral. So when you go there and they give you, a pill to take, whatever, it's Chromium. When you see some other weight loss pills, like that Garcinia herb, I don't recommend it. People I know who have taken that because they saw it online, it gave them such horrific diarrhea and stomach upset that they lost weight, but not really in an ideal kind of way. So I would just eat healthy. There's no magic pill. If there's a magic pill, we'd be rich, right? People who work in the lifestyle health industry, there's no magic bullet to this. There's no magic pill. The chromium can help you, but again, it's not like a magic bullet.
Yeah, that's really sage advice.
One thing I can say is I've worked with Joanne. She went through my diet and gave me some good insight into what I shouldn't be eating. And I was eating fairly healthily, but there was some things that I just noticed that I felt my body just didn't feel good after I ate it, right? So I think that's really a big part of it too, is listen to your body. Like once you start eating healthy, when you do eat something that's not really that good for you, you're gonna feel it. And your body's like, what is this garbage, right? Like, get this out of me kind of thing. So I like that. Like I really focus on how my body feels and how I respond to food. And I don't know if it's because of my spinal cord injury or whatever, but I'm really sensitive to that blood sugar changes. I can tell if I've had something, like I'm like, whew, like I can just feel it pretty quickly right after. And I'm like, oh, that's, something that's got to go. So yeah. You feel better when you eat better. When you're fueling yourself with the good stuff, you're going to feel good.
Yeah, it's totally right, Sherry. Thank you for that. People often forget how good they're supposed to feel because you get so used to having like processed foods, or you get into habit because food is habitual, and then slowly you just kind of get away from how good you used to feel. And then when you start to eat better, you're like, oh, I feel amazing. Your energy goes up, you're sleeping better, and you think, oh, like this is how I'm supposed to feel, right? So it's a good way to kind of remind yourself. And that's, to me, is the biggest motivator. When people start to feel better, that's the greatest motivation to keep going with it and don't revert back to how you used to eat.
So, Joanne, what you mentioned earlier, like sort of doing things gradually, and I wonder if you could elaborate a little bit more on that, because I think most people, like when I've done balanced diets before, and I wonder if you have any tips on sort of that gradual process. Because really, if you do try and sort of overhaul your complete diet, it's almost traumatic, right? And it's sort of hard to sustain. So do you have any like tips for, you did mention, start with the protein breakfast. What can somebody do right now who really doesn't have a healthy diet, right? Maybe they do eat a lot of processed foods, a lot of fast foods, a lot of white starches. We're sort of starting, at the bottom of the mountain. How do we step by step get up there?
I would say start by eliminating things that you shouldn't be having in your diet. Might be the easiest thing is to take away as opposed to adding. So take away like any kind of candy bar, any kind of candies, any kind of sweet sugary drinks. Just start by doing that and you'd be amazed, like you reduced headaches. You can start to lose weight. People don't even realize how much sugar they're consuming in liquid form, and people don't have to make the connection that if it's in liquid form, it's sugar. And by cutting out sugary drinks, so pop, iced tea, chocolate milk, things like that, that in and of itself can reduce a lot of calories, a lot of sugar, and not only help you start losing weight, but feeling better with your energy, again, reducing like headaches, things like that. So start by removing the sugar. Do that for a few weeks, then maybe go for your snacks. Start adding some almonds in, celery and hummus, start adding snacks, and then work on breakfasts. One of the biggest challenges I have with working with people is to find out their motivation, why they want to do something. So in addition to starting with removing food, starting with one meal at a time, I'd also ask yourself the question, why do you want to do this? People will often say to me, I just want to lose weight. Great, I hear you, but why? Is it because you want to enhance your exercise program? Is it because you want to prevent cardiovascular disease in the future, or type 2 diabetes? Like sometimes I get people coming to me who've just been diagnosed with elevated blood sugar levels, and it freaks them out because that could be on the road to type 2 diabetes. That is a great motivator. So really think about why you want to lose weight. In addition to just losing the pounds, what does it mean in terms of your lifestyle? I had a physician come to me a couple of weeks ago, and he wants to lose weight so he can see his kids graduate and be at their weddings. Like literally, it was that simple, but that's a heck of a motivator. So that can also, if you can really tap into motivation, your own personal motivation, that will really help keep you focused as you go through the process.
So we have another question here, and I think they give a specific example, but I think it also applies to a lot of the foods maybe that were mentioned today. So this person says, what do you do if you don't like whole wheat, right? Which I suppose you could translate to, what do you do if you don't like, leafy green vegetables? What do you do if you don't like drinking water straight up, right? I mean, these are things that a lot of people sort of deal with.
So, okay, and thank you for saying whole wheat. You never want to have whole wheat. So when I said get rid of the white stuff, you also want to get rid of whole wheat. You always want to have whole grain. Whole wheat, it's great marketing out there because there's whole wheat pasta, whole wheat bread. Whole wheat raises blood sugars as much as white does. So if you do want to go for any kind of healthier version of a grain, it's whole grain. Okay, so now to answer your question, what if you don't like it? Then don't have it. If you don't like whole grain, then skip it all together and go for more legumes. Fill your diet up with more legumes. And when people say to me, I don't like vegetables, I just don't believe there's every vegetable out there they don't like. There's going to be one or two they do like. And if they're really adamant they don't want to eat them, then drink them. Then stick them in a blender and just blend them up and drink them, right? And that actually is just a fast, quick, easy way to get them into your system with all that fiber. Don't juice them and remove the fiber. Stick it in your magic bullet, keep the fiber in there and drink them. Maybe add your 1 serving of fruit to those vegetables to sweeten them up, drink them down. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I think I should get to talk to my daughter. She's 11. I think that she's definitely anti-veggie. That's fantastic. So any other final thoughts or questions for Joanne? So Joanne will be joining us again. So the Staying Well series is going for 3 months, and then the speakers will rotate once a month. So Joanne will be with us again in 4 weeks' time. But are there any questions or thoughts on her presentation today about weight loss and dieting or healthy eating? Okay, awesome. Listen,
Right.
guys, thanks so much for coming.
Guys. Thanks, Dan.
Yeah, Joanne, thank you so much for coming. That was really handy. And if anybody's interested in reaching out to Joanne directly to get maybe some one-on-one support, or if you're interested in more information about her book, then please email me if you didn't write down her email, and I'll make sure that she gets it. Other than that, thanks everyone. And thank you, Joanne. It was awesome.